Silence, the complete absence of sound, the act of eliminating noise and distraction. Place the belief on oneself and the dedication to the team, a feeling of focus and a statement of who we are. Fear is created within the noise, and the noise will grow until the opportunity presents itself to silence it.
Everybody's going to be against you now. You got to have that mindset of, hey, it's you against the world.
It is time to attack it head on. It is time to create our own energy. It is time to take all of the noise and put it aside.
And all it takes is one good play here, another help here by your teammate, and somebody just making a play.
Stay hungry, fear nothing, and attack.
Welcome into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. I'm Nicole Shearin alongside Derek Smith and the voice of the Bears, John Morris. We have got a fun matchup for you today. Week 2, Baylor hosts number 12, Utah. I mean, guys, this is a little bit of a Big 12 preview coming into the house of the Bears. How are you guys feeling today?
You know, it's fun. 2 years ago we had BYU here, and they are now a Big 12 rival, and now we've got Utah a year ahead of that as well, and it's a big game for the Bears. They need a win. It's a tough matchup, but a great opportunity. We're going to talk about this. You don't often get a top 15 opponent in the non-conference right off the bat, but that's what we have today.
Yeah, the last time they faced a top 15 non-conference was back in 2011 against TCU. I mean, John, what are you kind of expecting to see from the Bears this morning?
Well, Utah's really good. I mean, it's a tough challenge, but I'm interested to see how much Baylor has progressed in the week. Very disappointing loss last week to Texas State. But they have just put their head down, went back to work, and they've got a real challenge against Utah. But I'm excited to see what they can do with a new guy at starting quarterback in Sawyer Robertson.
That's right. They've got a new guy at starting quarterback, and it's an earlier game for the Bears. Now, fun fact, there's a little bit of some 11 a.m. magic going on. The Bears are 8-1 in 11 a.m. games. I mean, what kind of advantage does that give the Bears today?
Well, I don't know. Coaches would love to play every game as early as possible. Players, not so much. But they've backed their schedule up. They'll be ready to go at 11 a.m. today. I don't know if that time, and it would be 10 Mountain Time. So for Utah, it's an hour earlier body time. But I think the heat may be a factor in Baylor's favor. They say it's been hot in Salt Lake City this year, but nothing like we've had here.
Little do they know.
Right. So we'll see if that is a factor and a plus for Baylor.
And this is a Utah squad, back-to-back Pac-12 champions. They've got Kyle Whittingham at the helm for the Utes, big-time college football coach. What are you guys thinking the Utes are going to bring into Waco? I mean, we all saw that game against Florida last weekend. What kind of challenges do you think they're going to pose?
Well, they're very physical. They've got a great defense. Last week against Florida, they had 5 sacks, held them to 13 yards. And as we saw, the offensive line for Baylor is an area that needs to improve. And they were going to need to anyway against Utah. And that's going to be a tough matchup. But I think if it's one that the Bears step up, it could really bode well for what's ahead. But Utah's very physical. They're going to bring it defensively. And they really stonewalled Florida last week.
Now, there's a little bit of a connection here between Utah and Baylor. Head coach Dave Aranda and Andy Ludwig were OC and DCs at the same time there. What do you think that kind of maybe gives an advantage to Aranda, or does he kind of have an inside scoop as into what schemes Andy Ludwig runs?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, but that goes back to 2013, 2014, so it's been 10 years ago. But it's a good storyline for us, but I think, and maybe a little bit in preparation, and add to that Joe Ludwig, Andy's son, is a GA for Baylor, so he's here on staff. But I think there's no secrets in this game. They are scouted from top to bottom. They know what Kyle Whittingham had for breakfast this morning, So I don't think once the game kicks off, it would be much of a factor at all.
And we're going to get into it later on in the show, but just a quick thought from each of you guys. It's obviously a battle of the backups tonight, right? We've got Sawyer Robertson, but then we've also got Utah's 2 backups that are going to make an appearance. So what are you guys kind of hoping to see from both sides?
Well, to that end, John, you said there's no secrets, and that is absolutely true. But I may be a little bit of a benefit for Baylor is that Utah's backups are on tape. They played against Florida last week, and they played very well. They played very well against Florida, so they're not going to be easy. But for Baylor, when Sawyer Robertson, a very talented young quarterback, there's not a lot of film on him at this level. He's talented, but stepping up into a starting role is going to be a big challenge, especially against Utah. You don't get a breather. You step right in against them, and I'm anxious to see if they can protect him, what he's able to do.
and we'll tap into conference realignment and everything a little later on. But, like I said earlier, this is a preview of a future Big 12 foe. So is that kind of a fun aspect to, this matchup?
Very much so. Like Derek said, we played BYU each of the last 2 years, and now they're in the Big 12. So I think Baylor's the Big 12 preview school, now getting Utah in here, and they will be in the Big 12 next year. And we're scheduled, this was a home and home scheduled, 7 or 8 years ago. So Utah here today, we're scheduled to play in Salt Lake City next year. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. If we play them as a conference game or play them maybe as a non-conference game since the game was already scheduled. So Mack Rhodes said this week it is likely that it would be a non-conference game. It'd be in Salt Lake City. But, there's so much, jigsaw puzzling to be done with the Big 12 schedule.
Exactly. And, obviously we all saw the game last week against Texas State. This is really the Bears' time to seek some redemption, get back on the horse, so to say. What are you guys hoping from that in that aspect?
Got to run the ball better. They have to have a better performance by the offensive line. Both lines have to get pressure defensively. And that's asking a lot against, again, a really good Utah team.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get into all of it right on a little later on in the show. We've got Rodney Smith, a Baylor legend, joining us on the desk next, but we'll be right back on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show.
If you need a trailer, Flat Rock Trailers.
Welcome back into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We have got a Baylor legend sitting with us at the desk tonight, Rodney Smith. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm very humbled to be here. I really appreciate you guys, but I'm loving every minute of this morning.
Well, we're happy to have you, sir. And, how does it feel to be back on your old stomping grounds at McLane, back in the day?
Well, he's a legend that didn't play at McLane, so that's how much of a legend.
Well, right. But how does it kind of feel to be, in Waco for such a big matchup against Utah? There's a lot of talk around this game.
Well, being from Waco, been in Waco all my life, but Utah gonna be a tough match for us. Being an old coach, you don't like to look back on games, but you stay in the present, you stay in the future. So I think the Bears will come out today and put up a fight. And if they're in it in the fourth quarter, we need the crowd to get behind us in that fourth quarter, and let's take the Bears to victory.
There's that coach coming out in you. As a coach, Rodney now assistant AD for WISD Athletics, but a former coach. All right, if you were in Coach Aranda's shoes this week, coming off that loss, disappointing for everybody last week, what's the message looking ahead to a really good Utah team today?
A really good Utah team, a really good Baylor Bears team. You know, you put it in the rearview mirror.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you put it in the rearview mirror. You focus on the positives because there's always positives in games, and you move forward. You know, everybody's talking about the loss. You know, so you keep it out of the locker room. You know, you focus on positive, and you go down and you go and beat Utah, and everybody forget about last week.
That's right.
Well, what do you kind of think going off of that, keeping it out of the locker room, what do you think is going through those guys' head, especially with, they suffered some injuries, there's some changes going on the roster. What do you kind of think they're thinking about right now?
I would like to say next man up. You know, one go down, shoot, man, next man up is his time to shine. What a better situation for the quarterback to be in for Chafin to go down and this guy coming here and beat Utah. What a great situation. So next man up.
You know, Rodney, we hear it. It's almost a cliche, but it's true. The greatest improvement comes between week 1 and week 2.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of practice leading into that first game. What is it about actually playing that first game, getting it on film, that gives you such that exponential effect?
Well, you get out all the jitters first of all. You know, who can make plays, who can't make plays, and who you got on that line or not on that line. But I just feel that, when you get the crowd behind you, it's impossible to allow a Utah team to come way to Waco. Don't care about a ranking. You know, throw all that out the window. You're in Texas. You're in our backyard. I'm just expecting for the Baylor Bears to come out and put on a show for the fans.
And we've got Sawyer Robertson for the Bears. We've got Bryson Barnes and Nate Johnson for Utah. Cam Rising suffering an ACL injury. He's still working through some of that. I'm calling it a battle of the backups because I think that's what it is today. What are you kind of excited to see in terms of, this battle going on the field?
Well, you don't want to call backups.
Right.
It's the next man up.
Next man up.
Next man up
mentality.
It's part of the game. That's why coaches recruit 3 and 4 kids at certain positions, and when one guy goes down, it's the next man up, man. You're not a backup. It's your time, And I'm pretty sure a lot of those guys get to play, probably not as much as they should in those games because you're next man up. Okay, but I just think that next man up, and let's go get it done.
Rodney, at Baylor, 1996 to 1999, football.
Such long ago.
Legendary years. Football and basketball. You're one of the few guys in Baylor history that played both and played really well. How did you do that? What was the challenge associated with that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to give my Lord and Savior all the credit, guys, all the credit. He's allowed me to be able to come from South Waco and do some things that I've never thought I'd been able to do in my lifetime. Football and basketball was really tough, classroom work and whatnot. But I found a way and got it done, and I just appreciate the people for giving me the opportunity to do those things. I'll never forget them.
Yeah.
How did that shape you into not only the athlete that you were, but kind of the person that you are now?
I tell you, we had some hard times back then in Baylor, and it molded me and growed me to be the guy that I am today, and I was kind of a tough coach, because of those times. But again, I wouldn't trade them for the world, and it allowed me again to do some things that I love to do. And to this day, I'm still involved in the game.
Love it. Well, and Stacy Bauer-Smith is your wife, standout here at Baylor, now associate head coach for Baylor track and field. And the next generation of Smiths are coming through. Sydney, y'all's daughter, is on the Baylor track and field team. In London, I hope we're recruiting. I don't want this to be a violation. I hope we're recruiting him. I'm just saying that from a family sense, okay?
All right, we appreciate it.
That is really cool. And congratulations on being the legend today. Have fun out on the field today.
All right, thanks, man. I really appreciate this moment. Thank y'all a bunch.
Well, we really appreciate having you, and we're going to have another guest join us up on the desk. We've got Toby Barnett, interim VP for advancement. I don't know if y'all have seen it, but the Mark and Paula Hurd Center is pretty incredible. Have you seen it?
I have not.
We got to get you in there.
It's beautiful.
It's a
amazing.
beautiful place. You know, they've got a fan shop, coffee shop, all that good stuff. I think it's going to be a really fun way for fans to kind of pop over there before the game starts. So if you're, back, you got to take a visit when it opens up for the fans.
Yeah,
but
next
sir,
week.
thank
There's a
you
Ute
so much
walking
for
by.
being here. We really, really appreciate
thank
it. So
y'all.
thank you so much. But stay with us. Toby
Congratulations.
Barnett's joining us right after the break on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show.
TFNB, your
Welcome back into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We've got Toby Barnett joining us on the desk now. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, it's a great day to be at McLane Stadium. Looking forward to the game.
It's awesome. And I hear there was a very big ribbon cutting ceremony happening yesterday. Talk to us a little bit about that.
It was a huge opportunity to have a public unveiling of the Hurd Welcome Center, the Mark and Paula Hurd Welcome Center. We couldn't be more proud to have that facility on our campus. It is really a game changer as far as recruiting students to Baylor and really creating a place for alumni to come back to the campus. And right there on the corner of I-35 and University Parks, it will be just a very convenient place for people to get off of I-35, stop. You can go to the Spirit Shop and get your new Baylor apparel, as well as, kind of connect and participate in anything that's going on at that facility. So it's a great new facility for Baylor.
I've driven by it so many times. I cannot wait to peep inside myself, but you kind of just touched on it. For people who don't know, how can they use this space? Kind of what's the purpose of it?
You know, this space is really intended to help Baylor University recruit students. And so as you an 18-year-old student coming, we were working from a small facility that served the university very well, but this is a facility that's going to represent Baylor's brand. And so as you walk into the space, it is wide and open, and even the architecture is meant to inspire. I think it's unique, and it draws people into the building. And then it has a lot of very unique elements inside of the building. We have these light columns that represent the 4 columns from Independence, but in each of those there's an exhibit, almost like a museum exhibit, that features parts of our traditions and promotes Baylor and celebrates kind of the best of our community.
And there was a ribbon cutting ceremony last night. How was the turnout? Talk to us
it was
about
just
that.
an unbelievable opportunity. So we had about 1,000 constituents that came and really celebrated the Give Light campaign. The Give Light campaign has generated about $1.4 billion to support the university. And this was kind of the culmination. When we launched our campaign, Mark Hurd announced their public gift to start the construction of the Hurd Welcome Center. And we are now at a point where we have successfully raised $1.4 billion. And so this was kind of a bookend to the launch of our campaign. And last night we had lots of wonderful music. Our very own Tranny Anderson, who has been nominated for Song of the Year, which is a Heart Like a Truck, sang by Lainey Wilson, was there and performed, as well as Jim Beavers, who has a number of really wonderful songs. And then the night was we celebrated with David Foster and Catherine McPhee in really, really grand fashion. So it was truly a spectacular night for the Baylor family. And then outside, we had over 7,000 students that came and celebrated with Bailey Zimmerman at the Howdy at the Herd.
That's awesome.
And so, which we hope will become just a wonderful tradition. So it's a great, great night for Baylor.
Derek, you were there.
It was amazing.
Right?
Yes, I'm a little tired. I don't usually stay out that late before an 11 a.m. game, but it was an amazing night, and the images were just incredible, Toby. And, you know, I've heard the Herd Center called the front door to Baylor University, and you think about all that's going on here at Baylor. Driving in on 35 now, you're going to see the new pavilion. You see McLane Stadium behind us. You're going to see the Herd Welcome Center. When I was a student, it was a motel and a shopping center. Tell me about just what that means, what that symbolizes to people as they see Baylor, maybe for the first time in a lot of cases.
You know, and I think as you think about Baylor's brand, this facility really represents something big and I think something innovative. And as you think about becoming a Baylor student, we want you to be inspired. And so there are spaces inside that facility, a ballroom, the atrium, where we can host large gatherings of people, either student recruiting events, but it is just truly a phenomenal resource. And we'll begin doing some things, even Friday night hangouts before home football games, because as you're coming to town, we really believe that the Baylor family benefits by getting together. And so this is going to be a space where that can happen. So really excited.
I like the symbolic nature of the Welcome Center. It is for students that are past, alums,
Absolutely.
students that are present, and even future students who come in to the university through there.
Absolutely. And as we think about even parents, as you're dropping your student off at Baylor, it creates a place where you can connect with our Parents League and really our parents. That's such an important part of students being successful. And this is going to be a place where really so many different Baylor festivities and activities, it's just going to be associated with what's going on at Baylor.
Yeah.
How do you feel that it's, you touched on it, but how do you feel that it's going to bring more people to Waco, to the area? It's already on the map, but how do you feel that it's going to bring even more people?
You know, I think just like a home football game, many times you come to town and like, where do you meet? Do you meet up at a restaurant or run into people? This is going to truly be a place where you can gather. And so we're going to create programs that just it's that place where you can home base, where you can kind of touch and recognize people and connect and reconnect with either new students or reconnect with old friends. So it's going to be a great space.
Do you have a favorite part, Toby, or is that like asking to pick your favorite child?
You know, there are so many things. One of the things I'm especially proud of is just some of the donor stories. I mean, the McLanes generously provided to support this facility. There's also a family by the name of Bill and Pat Carlton, and just some very wonderful stories. And as you go around the building, there are so many people in the Baylor family that have generously contributed to make this building a reality. And so we hope you'll go through and you'll recognize some of those names, and that it's humbling to be a part of it.
And fans can start going through it next Saturday, right?
Absolutely. So on game days, come out. You can buy a new T-shirt and a thermos or whatever you need for the day. And so it's going to be great. It'll be open. Students will even begin studying. There's a coffee shop. And so there really is a lot to draw you into the building. So please stop by. There will be about 200 parking spots for visitors adjacent to the building. So come on in. Drop off I-35 and get a cold Dr. Pepper. We'll be waiting for you.
That's awesome. I got to be honest, the coffee shop part of it really piqued my interest. I'm a big coffee girl myself.
She's from California.
So,
Pete's Coffee.
and it's
yes,
Pete's.
Yeah.
Pete's. I know Derek told me that, and I was
There
like,
you
oh
go.
my gosh, I've been needing that taste of California a little bit.
That's right. That's right.
So that is perfect. Well, sir, thank you so much for being here.
Well,
We really
thanks for the
appreciate your
opportunity.
time, and I'm excited to check it out myself. I've driven by it 100 times, so I'm very excited to check it out.
We look forward
But-
to welcoming you.
Well, thank you.
Congrats, Toby.
Well,
Great
we're
day.
going to wrap this up, but before we go to break, Elliot Coffey and Seth Russell, some other Baylor legends, are going to join us on the desk. We've got Utah and Waco. We're going to touch on offense, defense. We'll break it all down right here on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We'll be right back.
Ask for Casasa Checking. It's our
Welcome back into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We've got Elliot Coffey and Seth Russell joining us on the desk. Seth, you're back this week.
Missed you last week.
Back. Sorry, guys. I was with my grandma celebrating her 80th birthday last week. So had those only come around once a year.
That's a legitimate excuse. We accept it. Okay?
Sorry about
we
that.
accept it.
But we're back. We're back.
All right, well, guys, I think we got to dive right into this matchup. We've got a good one in
Yeah.
McLane Stadium. We got number 12 Utah making their way over to the home of the Bears. I mean, let's get into realignment first because there's a lot going on with all of that. Obviously, Utah, a Big 12 foe coming up next year. What are y'all's thoughts overall on, what's going on?
A lot of craziness, in my opinion,
Yeah.
but I like it. I mean, I think bringing more complexity to the Big 12, I think is going to be good. More eyeballs, right, is always going to be important. I think next year is going to be kind of a test. And then after that, I think they're probably going to do some potential shifting, maybe in north and south. We'll see whoever else wants to come in or leave with some better opportunities there. But I think just from what I'm seeing, I like it. It's different. It's change. So it's exciting.
What do you think, Elliot?
Man, so first off, I'm happy that the Big 12 is expanding. That's good, right, for the health of the conference, right? My senior year in college, we had the first reshuffle. A couple years ago, we had the second reshuffle. It's all about stability and strength of your conference, the ability to market yourself to the masses, therefore getting those contracts, right? So if bringing in Utah and all the other schools out west does that, fantastic. Now, I've had a hard time on social media because Utah fans have come for us pretty hard, pretty quick.
They have.
And that whole realignment thing was a tough thing. We got some Utah fans around here. That whole realignment thing was tough for me because it sounded like they wanted to hold on to the Big 12 or to the Pac-12, and a lot of us were like, "Hey, you guys can stay, but we'll take everybody else that wants to come over." And so, ultimately, it's a great football program. They've got a great head coach. They've had some stability that we haven't seen across the college football landscape really over the last couple decades, and so it's going to be a great addition to the conference.
And you think what we were talking about 2 years ago at this time, there was a lot of uncertainty. It's really amazing to think just how well the Big 12 played its cards. Mac Rhodes said a couple weeks ago, this isn't a time to spike the football because, honestly, I feel for our friends at Washington State and Oregon State. But it's not us. It's the stability is there, and it's just really impressive to think what's happened in 2 years because it could have gone another direction.
100% could have gone a totally different direction. And it's bringing a lot of elite caliber teams to the conference. I mean, I think we all watched the Utah-Florida game last week. Held Florida to 5 sacks on defense, 13 total rushing yards. What are y'all expecting to see from these guys today?
This defense is tough.
Yeah.
They do a lot up front. They do give a bunch of different looks. They got a lot of good athletes up front. That front seven is pretty stout. You don't hold a SEC team to what they did, just being slumps, right? And so it's going to be a huge challenge for our offensive line. I think this week, they're going to look at last week and try to pick out, who can we attack, right? And I think it's going to be a good challenge, at least for the offensive line, to really step up and say, hey, you know what? Last week that's not who we are. Right, we're reliable, we're violent. We need to be that way. We need to get back to that type of mentality. And I think just looking at it from that standpoint, it's a good challenge game for both teams.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that Utah defense is pretty solid. You look at a guy like Cole Bishop, had 11 tackles, 1 sack, and forced a fumble, right? Ton of productivity. A guy that has 20 starts on that defense. That's the kind of continuity you're seeing across this program is there's a culture of the type of player that they're looking for, and they're getting those guys, and they're going out and they're producing, right? We talk about how they held them to 13 yards rushing last week. The year before, they rushed for 280. Right, so you want to talk about a fixing the program from year 1 to year 2. Granted, Anthony Richardson was out there, so maybe him not being around played a little bit of a factor into it.
Just a little bit,
right?
just a little bit.
Who is that guy?
Yeah, exactly, right, exactly. But you're seeing an incredible amount of growth from 1 year to the next. Like you said, you saw the sacks, you're seeing the productivity, and I got to tell you, on film, it just pops at how hard that defensive line works.
Yeah.
Those guys never stop. They're always in the right spot. Whether or not they make the play, they're making it tough on whoever they're playing against. And so for us, with the offensive line struggling the way that it did last week, you can expect to see those motors that you saw defensively for Utah showing back up
Motor.
today.
Yeah.
Motor.
Elliot's favorite word.
That was. I'm not going to say that I used motor 15 times because I watched the Utah game last Thursday, but that's why I used the word motor.
Yeah, and talking about rushing, so holding Florida to 13, I think I've heard, I don't know how reliable it is, but they want to try to hold Baylor to 20 yards rushing this game.
That's
so,
the goal, apparently.
Hey, if we can get past that first series, let's keep going.
Yep.
I know. All right, y'all, switching to the other side of the ball, for Baylor, Sawyer Robertson's getting his first career start, but we've got Bryson Barnes and Nate Johnson for Utah because from, reliable sources, it's been confirmed that Cam Rising will not be playing today because he's still, healing up that ACL injury. What are y'all expecting to see from – they use the 2 quarterback system to their advantage. What are y'all thinking you're going to see from, this side of the ball?
Yeah, I think we're going to see what we saw last week, right? I mean, they're probably not going to change a whole lot. They may try to run a lot more with their running guy. Looking at our defense last week, there's some film now, right? So we can just figure out, hey, what was Texas State doing that was being successful against our defense? They're going to try to attack that. We've always had issues with the running quarterback, and so I think they're going to get him involved probably a lot sooner than we anticipate. Looking at their passing yards from last week, I mean, over half of it was on the first play of the game, right? And so if we can keep that to a minimum, let the offense do what they do, I think should be a tight game today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when you look at this offense, it did come in chunk plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had just a tick over 100 yards rushing. I think that, this has been from our end as well as from Utah's end, whoever wins the run game today, whoever can dominate the line of scrimmage and can hold time of possession, whoever's defense spends more time on the field is going to lose this game, right? It's going to get hot. It's triple digits out there. We know offensively what they want to do, right? They've got a game manager. They got somebody that can run the ball. And so we've shown that we can struggle a little bit in the slot. I expect to see them trying to create matchups in space there, right, for the game-managing quarterback, and I expect them to bring in early and often that dual-threat quarterback trying to keep us honest on our reads.
Well, it's a big game all around, but it's an especially big game for Sawyer Robertson, first career start for the Bears. We'll break that all down for you right here on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We'll be right back.
TFNB, your bank.
Welcome back into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. I'm Nicole Shearin alongside Derek Smith, Seth Russell, Elliot Coffey. We got a stacked lineup for y'all today. Now, guys, let's dive right into it. Blake Shapen, he suffered an MCL injury against Texas State last week. Sawyer Robertson making his first career start for the Bears. I mean, Seth, I want to ask you this. You know what that's like? What do you think's going through his head right now?
I think, if the coaching staff, well, the way that I know them is like, hey, go out and prove yourself, right? I mean, that's the same advice that I got from Bryles whenever I had the opportunity, right? So against Northwestern State, it was like, hey, you know what? This is an opportunity to go and make a name for yourself, right? And go and prove it. You know, it's your ball. We're putting the ball in your hands. We trust you. Did a great job last week. You stepped up. Hey, maybe made some young mistakes, just from, hey, fumbling the ball, the interception, whatever, right? Move on from it. Learn from it. I think he's really going to do well today. He fits really nicely into this system. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to see what he can actually do today.
It's good to play at 11 a.m. for him?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's, if the environment wasn't what it is, I think it might be tough. But, hey, 11 a.m., early game for Utah technically. It's going to be hot. right? Elliott mentioned earlier, hey, whoever's on the field longer is going to have less advantage on defense. And so, and I think that plays right into the way that Baylor wants to play this game today.
Absolutely. Earlier this week, some of his guys were saying that if we want a guy that needs to throw it, Sawyer's the guy. He can get it done. And I think we saw glimpses of that against Texas State. But like you're seeing right now, he can also scramble with the ball. He's got some wheels on him as well. So speaking on the run game specifically, Aranda was talking about how he wants to use a two-back room, but against Texas State, Dom just got more touches. Richard Reese didn't see the field as much. So what are y'all thinking you're going to see from this room today? Maybe some more even touches between both?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we wanted. Lightning and thunder, right? Reese is going to be a little bit quicker around the edge. Dom's going to be more downhill, right? When the offensive line is struggling to really command the line of scrimmage, well, you need the thunder guy to go in there and kind of try to pave the way so that Lightning can come in behind after they've worn down a little bit. And so my hope is that you get to see more complementary football between the two of them, right? We need both of them to be effective in order to win the football game. And so as long as that O-line play is looking the way that we want it to, I see us, seeing pretty balance, hopefully, between the two of them, because everything about this offense is stemmed off the run game, right? If we can run that outside zone the way that we want to, then naturally you'll see that passing game open up. Once again, this is about, I think, time of possession, keep them on the field. It's going to get hot, right? Keep the defense of the other team on the field as much as you can.
And Coach Aranda said that the right side of the line in particular said maybe there's a little bit of wide eye last week, right? I mean,
some babies out there, man.
Yeah, it's a young.
Right?
There's only one returning starter in Gavin Byers.
It's the first game jitters, it's all that going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And he talked about, Seth, with you too, he talked about how he had to take Blake out because he felt they couldn't protect him, right? So what adjustments do you think we're going to see with that O-line specifically, hopefully, today?
Yeah, I think they look at last week and they were embarrassed. I mean, I was embarrassed for the way that they played, right? Now, I would take that personally. I know the coaching staff is going to. I know the players are going to. So I think you're going to see a different offensive line, hopefully, right? Hey, maybe a little more aggressive. Hey, doing what they do, getting downhill, moving some guys instead of moving backwards, maybe keeping them in place or even moving them backwards. And I think with this offense, the running quarterback really thrives well in this offense, right? And we were talking about this earlier where, hey, getting Sawyer maybe involved early in just a couple of zone reads just to keep that defense true, right? Because, the past couple of years we haven't really had much of a running quarterback. And so defenses are able to really swarm and we're not able to open up the running game. And so I think being able to do that early, I think anywhere between 10 and 12 rushes for Sawyer today I think is going to be kind of where we want to stay. Maybe 4 or 5 of those, maybe even 6 are actually designed runs. But just based off of what I saw from last week, we got to get him involved. It's going to help open a lot with running game.
And that's what we were talking about. Yeah, exactly. Is that we think a lot of why Texas State maybe looks so good is because all they were doing is running in straight lines.
Yes.
Right? All they had to do was bring pressure the whole game. It was when we started to see him slip out of the pocket a little bit, right, deliver the ball downfield, all of a sudden, guess what? There was time for protection.
Exactly.
Right? And so how much of that was us beating ourselves? How much of that was maybe personnel getting things figured out? I don't know, but I promise you in the film room they had a chance to look at it and get that sorted.
And Aranda even said that earlier this week. He said, with Sawyer as QB1, this is maybe an opportunity to switch some things up. And like you said, Seth, I think we're going to see that today because I think it could really be to the Bears' advantage against the number 12 Utah team. For sure.
Absolutely. And then just based off of, hey, this is the games you want to play in, right? You want to, first start Northwestern State, great team. We just had better athletes and better scheme. But I think from establishing a name, being new at Baylor, being a transfer, this is the game that you want to play in to make a name for yourself and then potentially establish a starting position moving on for the rest of the season.
Seth, I want to ask you about the improvement in weapons that Sawyer Robertson is going to have to throw to. Drake Dabney, the first 100-yard receiving game from a tight end in over 60 years.
Wow.
But then it was also Keytron Jackson. Jonah Burton really was impressive. Hal Presley. Seems like there's a lot of improvement in that area from last year at this time. What did you see?
Yeah, and I think that really played off of the way Shapen was throwing the ball, right? He was a lot, just based off from last year to this year, he was a lot more confident back there. They've had a full year of work together from looking at film of like, hey, who's going to be guys that are going to step up? That's who I'm going to trust in. I don't think they had that trust last year. They have that this year. And so being able to see kind of where Sawyer can step in, hey, Shapen should be right there in his ear just saying, hey, you need to trust these guys. These guys are going to be there. They're getting in and out of their routes. They're getting separation. They're catching the ball, right? Hey, they're not being hesitant across the field. They're going to be in the position that they need to be in. You just got to get the ball to them.
And I think for Sawyer specifically, first career start against the number 12 Utah, it's one way to go in, right? Then you got LIU and you got Texas because Aranda told us earlier this week that it's 3 weeks for Shapen. So I think this is a good scenario for him. It puts him into the fire right away to get him prepped for some tough guys on the schedule down the road.
Yeah, and he's been in a good system, right? He came from Mississippi State where Leach was slinging the ball around. So he understands what it looks like to be a successful on top of just a passing offense, right? And being thrown into this offense, I think he's really going to thrive and do extremely well.
Well, we've talked offense a lot, but, there is a whole other side of the ball. We've got the defense. There's some adjustments that need to be made, and we'll chat about all that right here on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We'll be right back.
How far we've come.
Welcome back into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. If you're still watching, thanks for sticking around with us. We talked offense. Now let's switch gears, guys, to the other side of the ball. We got defense, and they also faced some injuries last week. Let's break down what kind of gaps are going to be filled today.
Yeah. So Devin Lemire's unfortunately is out, dislocated elbow, which I saw it when it happened. It was somebody came flying into a pile, popped him up, and then I just saw that thing hanging when he was running to the sideline. So Alfonso Allen, we're going to see him step in. That is a guy that, as unfortunate it is for Lemire's to go down, I'm excited about Alfonso Allen. Yeah. I think that's a guy. He's a Miami kid. The last time we had a kid from Miami play a lot of snaps was one guy named Tyquan Thornton. Don't know if you ever heard of him. But I think this is a guy that brings a ton of energy to the field. I think he's got a nose for the football. I think he's got some energy that we need to see defensively. The other side of that, too, is that Garmin Randolph, high ankle sprain, right? Those things have a tendency to linger. I've had a high ankle sprain that's been swollen since 2010 against Kansas State. And so my hope for him is that after 2 weeks, that high ankle sprain is gone and he's back and he's healthy. But you're going to have to see the next guy up, right? We have a ton of people that are going to come. The big name that we've heard, of course, is Byron Bonds, right? That's a guy that was a transfer in. He's a guy that's from the state of Texas. A lot of opportunity for some guys that we aren't familiar with to step in and play some really meaningful snaps against a very, very good Utah team.
And, we saw some defensive struggles against Texas State.
Yes, we
Those
did.
became very apparent. There's still a lot of question marks within that side of the ball.
Yeah.
What do you think these injuries that they are suffering, maybe changes in terms of the performance that we're going to see out there today?
You look for Baylor. Guys are going to have to step up. Utah's dealing with that as well, although in some cases they have a week on us on that front, particularly for the Baylor defense. Seth, you've been in this, you've been on the other side of this where a team has to prepare for two quarterbacks, and quarterbacks with different styles. Was Cam Rising going to play? Or, you look at the backups last week, Barnes and Jackson. What impact does that have? Does that give you confidence as an offense when you know the other team doesn't know who you're going to throw at them?
Yeah, absolutely. But then, with the way that their offense ran last week, it's kind of a question mark, right? Hey, who's going to be in there? Are we going to throw it? Are we going to run it? So I don't think they really have established who they are on offense yet, Utah. So I think they have some question marks that they need to fill themselves. Hey, number 12 in the country, right? that's great and all. They don't have your main guy, right? Cam Rising, who could come in next couple of weeks, but I think they just got to come out. I mean, Baylor's got to put some pressure on them. We didn't have much of that last week against Texas State, and just to keep them guessing, right? To figure out who's going to be their starting guy and then just go after them.
Well, I think this defense is really going to see it all because, Bryson Barnes, he's more the game manager. We talked about that. Nate Johnson, he's more the running guy. I mean, he was a track star. So you're going to see wheels on that guy. So I'm curious to see, how the defense has really prepared this week for the differences in this offense that they're going to see. And I think we saw it last week against Florida. Utah's going to utilize these two quarterbacks.
Yep.
And, I guess we'll see what happens out there on the field, but I think it's going to pose some challenges for the defense.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, just to talk about us first and then how we maybe move that over to Utah is there's a couple areas that we had concerns last week. Interior D-line, right? They're going to have to hit it up the gut, or they're going to try to hit it up the gut on us, right? So we're going to have to make sure that from a D-line standpoint, from a nose tackle standpoint, that we hold the line, we give clear reads for our linebackers and our safeties so that as we're filling there, we look good. The second thing is that we have to make sure that anytime you have a running quarterback, that you are so disciplined about your reads, that you're disciplined about what the guy next to you is doing. And the other thing, too, is the further you get back, right? So if we go defensive line back to linebacker back to safety, make the guy in front of you right if he's wrong, right? Whatever that means. If they step the wrong direction, if they have a murky read, make sure you make the guy in front of you right. So this is an offense that you're going to see open up. I'm cracking up here because Money Parks is one heck of a football name.
That is
a heck of a football name. And
Yes.
also an Alito, Texas native. So as much as we talk about some of the concerns about the heat, you got a lot of Texas boys that are on that roster. And so I expect them well into the third quarter to still be bringing a lot of heat.
Elliot, this is a young Baylor defense, which that means two things. You're going to have some mistakes, but you'd like to think that the ceiling where it could reach is a lot higher up than what we saw last week. But you talked about that line stepping up. I think for Baylor, TJ Franklin, Gabe Hall, and then Matt Jones behind them, the veterans, you'd like to see that step up that hopefully takes some of the pressure off the young guys behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've seen all of those guys in different ways be really productive for us, right? Win a lot of football games, have big plays, and you didn't necessarily see that, whether it was guys on just reads and runs or if it was back when you saw guys like TJ Franklin get pressure on the quarterback, slap his back, but not bring him down, right?
Yeah.
If you're in position to make the play this week, you need to make the play.
And here's the thing, guys. I was on that sideline running up and down, shooting my highlights, getting my workout in, but the energy's there for these guys. They want to do well. They want to win. I mean, TJ Franklin and Gabe Hall, we're telling their guys, what are we doing? Like, we gotta fix this. So that part is there. It's just a matter of, fixing the things that are game one mistakes, things that they need to mesh as a group. They need to figure out what's going on. And I think we've said it this entire show, but Utah is the team to really figure some things out and challenge these guys because I think they're up for a big challenge when it comes to a quarterback who can run the ball, a quarterback who can launch it downfield, and just a team that's going to utilize that in their offense.
Yeah, and even to the defense, to Baylor's defense, this is their first year OC, or DC, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they get some live action. That was their first live action game to kind of get a feel of, hey, who's going to fit and fill? Hey, who's going to make plays? Who's not? Right? You're not going to get your scout team or going against the offense that you've been running, head to head with for the past year. And so really getting a better feel of that. I think they probably went back and broke the film down extremely detailed, is what I would expect. And so, with the players on the field, they're going to be able to learn from their mistakes from last week. I think we're going to see a lot different defense. They're probably going to fly around a lot more. There should be a lot more excitement. Hey, it's a bigger game, right? We may have been caught sleeping last week, just playing Texas State, right? Now, who is that? But I'm excited for the way they're going to perform today.
I think there's a lot of fuel to the fire with this matchup for sure. And after this last break, we'll break down our final thoughts about number 12 Utah making their way to the home of the Bears. We'll be right back on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show.
Today is Thursday night, 2 days from game day, and my parents have flown into town to watch the game. And then my aunt and uncle have made the trip down, and they're actually staying down here in Waco for the season.
We're a football family. Like, we have a lot of football in all of our family.
We're blessed enough to be able to take that time and just come and support. So.
Second, we gotta see if this is possible. I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
Don't cheat.
You could have a roll of toilet paper, just the holder, 4 marbles, a ping pong ball, and a feather. And these two would create a game, some type of competitive game. And these two, when they get after it, it's like, I really.
Don't cheat.
You could have.
Welcome back into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We're almost at the end of our portion of the show here. Number 12 Utah making their way to the home of the Bears. A super fun matchup we've got for you guys. But two key guys that we have talked about and honed in on all preseason is the Barrington brothers. I mean, what a cool thing, these two brothers playing together. Seth, I know you have some experience with that. I mean, how does that feel for those guys and you reminiscing on your time with your brother too?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. I mean, that's if you have a close family, that's kind of what you want to do, right? You want to be on the same team or even on the opposing team, right? Just kind of get after each other. But with them both being offensive line, there's going to be a little bit more camaraderie there, but also maybe a little bit more fieriness, right? Because, hey, you expect your brother to be there, and if he's not, hey, I'm going to rip him, right? And that's, unfortunately with my brother, he came on as a walk-on, and so he was actually rolling in as first team. He got hurt, and a couple of things happened, but yeah, no, it's cool in the locker room. Hey, to work out together. I mean, we grow up together, we pick on each other, and so it's he kind of has a little different mentality. But when you're on the field, hey, y'all both have the same technique. When you're watching through film, right? Hey, you can say, hey, you suck that route, or you suck that. Suck that. Like, what are you doing? Right? What are you doing? Like, I'm calling this. You need to be here. You need to be we need to be on the same page. And so, I think them jumping in, last week was pretty rough, right, for everybody on the up front. And so, but having somebody there that's blood brother, right? I mean, that's really exciting, and I'm pumped for these guys. I know they're probably going to grow together, and hey, it's the first time seeing them, right? And then first time really working together on a live atmosphere. And so it's going to be, I think they're going to grow, and it's going to help that offensive line throughout the season.
I think you're right. I think it creates a world of accountability. I mean, you want to make sure that from one week to the next, you just continue to get better, whether or not you played well or not. Like, anytime I had a game, whether it was good or bad, the first thing my dad always asked me after the game, after he said good job or bad job, the first thing he always asked me is, how much film did you watch? Right? I can tell by the first quarter whether or not you watched film, whether or not you understood tendencies of that team, you understood what you did well and what you needed to change. And so my hope looking at these guys is that not only are they doing everything in their power at the facility to make sure that they rectify what happened last week, but they're taking it home with them.
Yes.
Right? They have that extra time where instead of sitting around and shooting the shoot and goofing off, maybe they watch a little bit extra film, right? Maybe they do a little bit of footwork. Maybe they figure out, hey, look, this is where we made the mistake. This is where we can make the adjustment. And my hope, too, is that since you got 2 of the 5 guys in the offensive line that are brothers, you can bring the other 3 over with you, too. Right?
Yes.
Bring everybody back over and get them going.
Exactly.
Barbecue.
That's the thing. It doesn't just stay in the locker room or the weight room. It goes home with you, too. And I think for me, if I had a sister or whatever I was playing with, I would feel a little bit of competition, but also kind of like, let's rally together and let's do this thing. We're already related. Like, come on, let's bring everybody else together and do this. And so I'm really excited to follow these guys all season. I think, one, it's super cool that Baylor's home to this, really cool brother figure and brother duo on the O-line. But I think it really will help this young line work some kinks out and kind of be that strong line that the Bears need.
Yeah. And we need that, right?
Yes.
Because you look at what Baylor needs to do to be successful today. We kind of talked about inside the numbers and going inside. Last week, over 50% between 3rd and 4th down. They allowed Texas State to extend some drives. That's got to change today. They need to keep Baylor on the field to cut down on the time of possession for Utah. But on the other side, that defense needs to get them off the field.
Defense has got to get them off the field. I mean, once again, I think the teams that defense spends the most time on the field is going to lose this football game today. Yep. And so important for us to get off the field on 3rd down. And I think the other thing, too, be smart about playing the sticks. If it's 3rd and 7, line up at 6.5 and don't take a step back on the snap.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Let's get off the field on 3rd down. Let's let your big boys up front rest because we know we're a little bit thin on the defensive line. Make sure that you find as many opportunities as you can to do the right thing. Help folks out.
Okay, guys, quickly, before we go, round table. What are you looking for today? Ready, go. Man, a few words.
Oh, goodness gracious. I think just, hey, letting it rip.
Yeah.
Right, let Sawyer do what he does, playing within the offense, and, hey, let's have these guys really step up and make a statement for themselves today.
Protect Sawyer, get home when you have a chance to wrap up their quarterback.
You stole mine, Derek. It's protect Sawyer and let him have some fun out there.
Play fast, play together.
All right, well, guys, that is going to wrap up our portion of the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show, but it's still happening on Central Texas Radio with our very own John Morris. So we will see you next Saturday at Touchdown Alley as the Bears host LIU. Have a good one.
The Baylor Sports Media Network is a division of Baylor Sports Properties and Playfly Sports.